Engaging your students with questions and answers. Hi everyone, I'm Quentin and we're back for week 4 of the term 2 promotional giveaway. Today we're going to be talking all about smart classrooms and engaging your students with questions and answers. Now if you didn't already know, smart classrooms is one of the value adds to your Smart Suite and TV for Education subscription that you've already had available to you for the life of your subscription with your product. Smart Classrooms is basically a online dynamic lesson module that's going to allow you to present a load of teaching material to your students, have them engage and respond with questions and answers, and then also provide you as the teacher with the tools to monitor what the students are doing and if they're actually understanding the lesson. Now there's lots of practices that we can put this into for the library to engage students with books and polls. There's blended learning stuff that we can do, there's flipped classroom stuff we can do, checkpoint activities, excursions. So there's lots of practices that we can put smart classrooms into, but before we get to all of that, we need to actually first of all understand smart classrooms. So last week, Sophie went through, one of our learning advisors, went through the process of how they receive requests from teachers and build a lesson using smart classrooms. Today, we're going to go a little bit more in depth and have a look at how do we create a lesson from scratch? What are some of the slide settings that we can apply to our Smart Classrooms activity? And finally, we're going to have a look at how can we monitor the student engagement. So without further ado, let's jump in and have a look. Okay, so here's my Smart Suite or TV for Education platform. I've already logged in, and one thing that we have to be very conscious of is the user role of the personnel that we want to have access to smart classrooms. Now, user roles control what modules someone can see when they log into the system. It has been mistaken that the classification is what controls that. And that is incorrect. So classifications control your borrowing limits and it controls your security on what someone can see through the school's search or the school's OPAC. User roles is what controls whether or not someone has access to TV for Education, to smart classrooms, to make requests through TV for Education. Now, if you haven't set that up before or you're not too sure of whether or not your staff have a teacher role of teacher, a user role of teacher, please get in contact with us ASAP and we can have a look and also assist you in setting this up for all of your staff members. It'll take all of about 5 minutes for us to help you out with. Not a big process. You may be required to get some information from your admin system, but it's a very painless process that we can have you set up with by the end of the day. Once we're logged in and we do have those teacher roles, we're going to go over to our system menu and we're going to click on Smart Classrooms. Now, Smart Classrooms gives us the option to view my existing lessons or to create a lesson. And I'm going to go ahead and click Create. When it opens up in a wizard mode. So with the wizard mode, there's a few things that I can do, but I'm going to go ahead and just go straight to Create. It says to me, okay, now that you want to create, what do you want to call your lesson? So I'm going to go ahead and call it Volcanoes. If I then want to secure my lesson because there's some inappropriate content or mature age content in my lesson that should only be seen by Year 12s, I can go ahead and select the year group. And remember that it is a lower limit. So if I was to select 10s, it's going to give access to 10s, 11s, 12s, and staff. If I click 12, it's going to be 12 and staff only. If we don't need any security, we don't have to worry about that field. The description field, it allows me to provide a little bit of a synopsis on what my lesson is all about. And then we've got these two last settings here. So the first setting, when we get into Smart Classrooms and the different slide settings that we can put on, one of them is that all of our students can look at every slide within our lesson. Think of it like a PowerPoint presentation. So we have the welcome slide, and then we have another slide which is going to go through what we're going to do in the activity today. This setting says only allows students to access the next slide when I as the teacher give them access to do so. Okay, if we were to enable that, every student, as soon as they open up my lesson, will be able to navigate freely throughout my lesson. Okay, so we're just going to leave that as default for now. Publish lesson. This means that if I enable this setting, anybody will be able to search for and open my lesson through the school's collection. If I leave that as disabled, it is then under my complete control through my personal items to share that lesson with the individuals that I want to have access to it. Okay, if we ever forget or need some refreshing on what these settings are, clicking on Help at the top of the screen here, followed by Smart Classrooms, is going to walk you through everything that I'm going to cover today, as well as a description of all the different settings that we've just had a look at now. Okay, once we've gone ahead and filled that in, we can click on Save. Now, once we have created our lesson, it's now up to us to start adding some content into the lesson itself. So over on the right-hand side is our toolbar. Now, the toolbar is going to allow us to add some teaching material. I can add anything from this list. So if I go ahead and click on text, it now gives me the option or the opportunity to type some information that I want the kids to read. So we can go ahead and say, welcome to my lesson. We are going to have great fun learning about volcanoes. The title that I'm going to give this object is going to be called Welcome Message. Okay, so there's my first object in my lesson. I'm going to go ahead quickly and add another object. So this time I've chosen to search the TV for Education library, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a search for volcanoes. And let's go ahead and choose this SBS1 program here. We're going to click Add, and that's going to add that video in for us. Now, I've added two objects, but I currently can only see one. So if I wanted to toggle and have a look at all my other objects, I can do so by clicking on the preview icon. I can now see my first object, which is my welcome message, and I can see my second object, which is my video. Now, we're not going to cover it today, but with all the videos that are uploaded to the system, you also have the ability to clip and create different chapters. And that is also going to work on any YouTube material that you add into your lesson. It's a very, very simple editor to use. All you need to remember is when you set your markers, they are for the parts of the video that you would like to keep. Okay, which is sometimes very different to the way that other online editors work. Okay, so very, very quickly I've created these two chapters. I'm going to hit save, and that's immediately ready for my students. There's no delays, there's no waiting for that video to be rendered. If I hit play, that's going to go straight to that chapter. And if I want to go to chapter number 2, I can use the skip menu at the top. Okay. Now, the reason why we're not going to go through that today is because we're wanting to go through some of the slide settings. There's assistance within the help menu on how to go through and edit your videos. Okay, so down the bottom of that, you've got editing video clips, and you've got instructions on how to do that there. If you want some specialized training at your school on how to do editing through Smart Classrooms, you can also request that from us. Okay, so I've added my 2 objects. I now also want to go and add some questions. So under the Get Thinking option, I'm going to click plus, and it gives me the ability to add multiple types of questions. Now again, we're just going to skip through this part very quickly because we're wanting to get onto the slide settings and the audience engagement tools. If you're wanting some assistance with the different types of questions that are available, again, refer back to the help menu, and it's going to give you rationale for the different types of questions that you can add. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and just drop in. Okay, and we'll validate it so that we don't have to mark everyone's responses afterwards. Okay, so I've just gone and added my question in. Again, if I wanted to view the question, I can click preview to my question, and there it is there. So we've got a lesson now that's got some content and some questions. Now, this is where we start getting into the nitty-gritties of Smart Classrooms. Most of our teachers, especially those teachers who have received on-site training by one of our technicians already, know how to do everything, including video editing, up to this point. What we now want to go into is the various slide settings that we have at our disposal. So the first thing that we want to have a look at is our slide notes. So this is our speaking notes on this particular slide. So to help us teach this topic, we've got a couple of things that we want to go through with the students. If I go edit, I now have a screen that's going to allow me to add this information in. So with the slide name, I'm going to call it Introduction. Now the reason why we want to give the slides a name is to help us out with something that I'm going to show you later on. So I've got Introduction, and then our speaker's notes. Introduce the topic, go through what lava is, watch chapter 2 of SBS video. Okay, and we can save that. Now, when we're in the teaching mode, if I open up the notes, I can see all the notes that I've created on my screen so that I can teach this effectively. If I need to, I can pop that out, make that a little bit bigger. I can scroll that on the screen wherever I need to put that. And that's just going to allow me to make sure that I'm getting my teaching points across. So just like you've got with some of the other major systems out there, the ability to put specialized notes onto different slides, you've got that ability with Smart Classrooms as well. All you need to do is open up the slide you want to add the notes to, click on Edit Notes, and type away. Okay, now let's say that this is the introduction. We've got a little bit of a video. It's got some questions that we want the kids to interact with. But now we want to start getting into a bit more of the nitty-gritties. So what I can do is I can go to my slide settings and I can add a brand new slide. Now on this slide, it is completely blank. So if I look at my teaching material, there's nothing there. If I look at my questions, there's nothing there either. So I can go ahead and I can add another resource. So let's go ahead and add something from the curated YouTube library. Okay, let's choose this one here. We're going to go ahead and choose something else from curated. And potentially we might also upload some files. Okay, and these files might be downloadable worksheets that we want the kids to have access to. Now, we're going to also go ahead and add some additional questions. Let's go ahead and add a missing word. We'll go add blank. Okay, and the correct answer is earthquakes. Okay, so we've now got teaching material and we've got some questions on this particular slide. Now, let's say that we have gone and added a lot of content to this slide, which is slide number 2, or we don't want the kids to have access to the content because we haven't edited the videos for very unique reasons, or it's just very sensitive information. So we might be doing a sexual education class and we don't want them to have the ability to watch the material on their personal devices, but we still want them to be able to see the questions and answer. If I go back to my slide settings and I click on edit slide, again I can go and put in a title. So we're going to go topic 1, earthquakes. And down the bottom here, we've got the ability to change some of these settings. So the first tick box that we have is show content. Now, if I disable this, it's going to leave the questions on the slide, but it's going to hide the teaching material from the student view. I want it to be visible to myself, and I'm going to leave it hidden from the students until the point in time that I want them to have access to that slide. So again, going back to that first setting on the title page, do we want the ability for students to see every slide at any point in time, or do we want to control when they navigate to the different slides? In this particular example that we're looking at, we're going to go with the latter, which is we're going to control when they can look at those different slides. Now that I've hidden the content, I can update that. Okay, but now I've just realized that between slide 1 and slide 2, I really should put in another introduction for the earthquakes component. So I'm going to go to my slide settings and I'm going to add a new slide. And on this slide, we're going to put in another TV for Education program. And this time I'm going to search for earthquakes. San Andreas, that might be a good one to show the kids. Let's go Fierce Earth, we're going to add that in. Okay, again, I'm going to go to my slide settings, edit my slide, we're going to call it Earthquakes Introduction. Leave all the settings at the bottom, and we're going to update that. Okay, now I want the earthquakes introduction to be my second slide. So again, I'm going to go to my slide settings, and I'm going to reorder the slides. So I can see introduction, topic 1 earthquakes, and earthquakes introduction. I can click and drag earthquakes introduction in between. And now if I was to go back to the very beginning of my lesson, I've got my welcome message. I click next. I can see my earthquakes. Next, I can see the videos with the questions that we put on for that slide. So all of this is being done through the slide settings. And again, you've really got a lot of control on what you can do. Now, if I wanted to view what this would look like to the students, the first thing I need to do is I need to activate the slides. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn these slides on just so I can show you what it's going to look like. Then I'm going to go to my action panel and I'm going to go to switch mode. And it gives me 3 modes that I can select from. Start is entering into the student mode. Teach gets rid of all the edit settings and gives the contents to me in a nice view that I can present on the projector. And then I've got the edit which we were on. So if I go start, I can see all the questions for this slide. And over on the right hand side, I can see that there's a total of 2 teaching materials. So I can see the welcome message. If I click on the video, I can then see the video. And because we've edited it, when I click play, it jumps straight to that point in time.
And led to a deadly.
Okay. Once that chapter is finished, it automatically goes directly to chapter 2. And as a student, I can go through and skip between all of that teaching material at my leisure. I can answer, save my answers, and that gets presented to the teacher as well. And again, we're going to show you where we can look at how those kids have answered at the very end. If I go to my next slide, okay, I can see that there's no questions on this slide. I've got the teaching material here. If I wanted to, I can click on the title. That's going to throw it into that full screen. I can have a look at what the teacher wants to present to me. If I click next again, I've then got the ability to view all of those questions and the video content that we've got available to us. Okay. Now, if I go back to my switch mode and go back to my edit, we can now have a bit more of a look into the student engagement side of the system. Okay, and actually, instead of going to the edit mode, let's go ahead and go to our teaching mode. Okay, now the teaching mode is where we can basically do what it says. We can teach our students, but it's going to focus us on the teaching material rather than the questions. Whereas before you could see that the questions were the primary focus on their screens. Now, as I'm navigating through, I have a little suspicion that one of my students in the back of the class aren't actually engaging and paying attention. I can see either on the mobile phone this happening. Okay, SmartClassrooms doesn't scroll, so I believe that they're on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the other social media pipes. If they're on a computer and they're giggling, the lesson's good, but it's not that good. I just want to see what they're doing. So if I click on the action panel, I've got an option here that's called Show Audience. Now, what I should see in the Show Audience screen is a card for every person that has logged into my lesson. Once they are logged in, their card should be showing as green. As soon as that student opens a new tab, and navigates to a different website, or they open up a game in the bottom right hand side corner of their computer and they're playing the game instead of engaging with the lesson, their card is actually going to turn red. And that's going to notify you that they are no longer engaging with your lesson. If that is the case, you can click on the card, a little icon that says Close Lesson. They are unable to answer any more questions from that point in time. They're also not able to navigate to any additional slides, whether it's forwards or backwards. Okay, and that means that they're really locked out of the teaching experience. But we still need them to submit their answers for their portfolio. So what we can do on this screen is click Print Paper. Now all the questions that we have formatted on the digital platform, then are presented onto an A4 piece of paper that can be printed out. And it has a little space for each of those naughty students to submit their response in pen, and a little area for you as the teacher to mark their answers. You can then print that off, get them to do the old walk of shame, grab that piece of paper for the printer, and they now have to either follow along with the lesson on the projector or follow along with one of their peers. Once they've filled everything out with pen and paper, they hand it in to you, whereas everyone else is presented online and finalised online. So we have heard that after a student has been caught 2 times on average, they don't navigate anywhere else because they don't want to have to do things with pen and paper. They do want to engage with their mobile phones and answer all the questions that you presented to them. So the engagement tools are very, very important because it gives you a little bit more control over what's going on. Okay, we also have a lot of teachers, especially in the primary area, where they use our platforms to create all their questions. Because we've got the ability to then print a worksheet nicely formatted for those teachers to use, there's no additional work that teacher needs to do. So they would create a smart classroom activity, or they would request one from our learning advisors. They'd go to this screen and say, print 25 copies for me. They then hand that out to all the kids, and on the projector, they'll present the teaching material whilst the kids still answer with pen and paper. So Smart Classroom doesn't force you to be an online classroom. We give you the tools to decide whether you've got a paper-based lesson with projector teaching material, whether you've got all online and you've got kids answering on their mobile phones, or you've got a blended environment where some kids are doing paper-based, some kids are doing it on their smart devices. Okay, so it's a very flexible platform. It's just about getting in and actually utilizing some of the features that are available. So the last thing we're going to go into is the monitoring of the questions. So a lot of the other platforms out there will give you the ability to have a look at what the students have been answering at the end of the lesson. Now that's really good for looking at what you can present at the next lesson. But if we've got the kids with us right now and we want to verify whether they've got a decent comprehension on the topic that we're teaching, this is where Smart Classroom comes into its own. So down in the action panel, I can go to the results report. Now because I don't have anyone logged into my lesson right now, it's not going to show me a whole lot of data. Okay, but traditionally, once we walk into the classroom and we grab the URL at the top of the screen and we share that either through our emailing group to all of our students or through our learning management platform, and we say, if you go to our LMS, click on today's lesson, and you're going to jump into the lesson, into the activity, we're going to start seeing all of these bars start lighting up. So we will have 25 students that are in attendance. We've got 18 that are actually progressing through the lesson, and that's those students that are actually clicking next and going through and answering the questions. Then we might see that there's 2 that have already finished the lesson and have submitted all their answers. Okay, and that means that they can't change their answers once it's been submitted. As we scroll on down, we can then start seeing a breakdown of all the questions that we have submitted and who's getting them wrong or right. So there is a pie chart that'll show us of the 25 students who hasn't responded, or what percentage hasn't responded, what percentage has, has and got it correct, and what percentage has but has it incorrect. We can then scroll down a little bit further and we can see that they have answered A as the correct answer, when in fact it was B. So if I go and display my possible answers, okay, the question was, volcanoes create what type of hot ... They should have actually answered C. So if they're all going ahead and answering A, perhaps we need to do a little bit more on earthquakes, lava, and volcanoes. So as the students are answering on the online platform, this screen here is going to be dynamically rebuilding and showing us the results at that point in time. So if we're starting to find that they're getting answers incorrect, what we can do as the teacher is we can stop everyone and we can go back through some teaching points. Or we can go back into our edit mode. We can find another video. Okay, so we might go to slide number 2 and we add the video over there. We can quickly edit it, okay? And again, this is why we don't have those hindrances that a lot of those other platforms have, where you have to wait up to an hour sometimes for a video to be rendered after an edit has been made. Okay, with Smart Classrooms, as soon as we've edited that program,
Logical high.
that's now playing only the edited chapters. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can go back to our teaching mode and we can say to the kids, all right, what I want you to do is I want you to go to slide 2, and if you click on the second teaching material, it's called Wild Hawaii, I want you to watch the chapters that I've just created, and I want you to have a think as to whether or not you've got the answers correct. So all the students on their devices go back, they click on teaching topic number 2, they then have a bit of a think and they go, you know what, I need to go back to slide number 1 and I need to change my answer from here to here, and they can save that. And then on your screen, you can have a look at the results report and you'll be able to see the report dynamically changing from A down to C. And you can say, look, they've now got it. I can then go on with the rest of the lesson. So the results report really gives you a lot of information that's going to allow you to present a particular topic to your students in a very effective way. Okay, so today we've gone through how do I actually get into starting to create my lesson. And again, that's just by going through menu, Smart Classrooms, Create. We had a quick look at how do we go through and add the different teaching material through the toolbar on the right-hand side. We had a look at the slide settings, editing the slides, viewing our teacher's notes, and we also had a look at the audience engagement tools. Now, this is a very, very brief introduction into the features of the module. What we recommend is if you really want your staff to take advantage of that, Smart Classrooms, is you get in contact with us and you get us to do an innovation session at your school. Now, what the innovation sessions do is we sit down with some of the key learning lighthouse teachers at your school, the early adopters, and we work out what components of the platform are going to work best within your school's ecosystem. We find a package or a training package that's going to be right for your school, and then we can present that to either the early adopters and get them to do a training session for all of their colleagues, or you can pull all of your staff into a room and we can do the training on your behalf. Now, some of the things that we will go through are things like checkpoint activities. So when your students are walking into the classroom, instead of walking into a classroom where you have, I'm just going to try and show you quickly, where you have all your desks lined up in a row and you've got chairs behind them, they're going to sit down and basically just look at you the whole time. You can change the room to have different groups. So you've put the chairs in a circle, or you've put the tables in a circle, and you've got 3 little areas. Now on that area, all you have is a piece of paper with a QR code. Now, because this lesson is brand new, the QR code hasn't been built, but if we were, and I'll just show you that again, sorry, from the edit mode, if I click on Action Panel and edit title, and then scroll down 1, I will see the QR code that's unique for my lesson. Now this gets built after a couple of minutes. Okay, so there's nothing that you have to do, it's all automatic. But what that will do is when you copy and paste that onto a Word document and you print that out, you place that on table number 1. You then create another lesson and you do the same thing for table number 2, followed by table number 3. You split all of your students into 3 groups and you either give them a iPad that they're all going to work off, or you say to them, use your BYOX device, scan the QR code and access the lesson. Now, as they all walk in and they're split up into their different groups, they go ahead, they scan the QR code, and they get presented with information that they have to go through and interact with. And again, it could have been you as a teacher talking into your mobile phone, explaining checkpoint 1 and saying there's 2 slides, I want you to have a look at the teaching material, and then on the final slide, there's a whole set of questions I want you to answer. So as the students are going through, they're learning the material, they're going to the slides, having a look at the questions, going back to slide 1 to try and identify the information that you want them to really pick up on. They go through, and after 12 minutes, you hit the buzzer and you say, okay, rotate. They then put that QR code sheet down and they move to the next table. Okay, so we're changing the way that we can deliver information to the students. Another topic that we've seen happen another activity that we've seen happen at schools is where the teacher takes the students out to an excursion. Now, before the excursion, they actually created a number of checkpoints. And there was one for the elephant enclosure, one for the lions, one for the meerkats, etc., etc., etc. The key exhibits that they wanted the students to focus on. They created a piece of paper and it had a QR code with a title next to it. When you get to the elephant enclosure, scan this QR code. When you get to the lions, scan this QR code. They gave that sheet to the students and then they said, run wild. Go and have a look at all the exhibits. Just make sure that you answer these questions before the end of the day. Now, the teacher still has the ability to roam around, but using the audience engagement, they can open up the lesson and they can have a look at which students are actually progressing through the lessons and which students are just sitting down, eating chips and having a chill session. They can then try and locate those kids throughout the zoo, have a chat to them about, hey, I know what you're doing because I can actually see it on my mobile phone that you're not engaging. And those students will then jump up and go and start answering. Okay, again, for those students that didn't bring their device, that teacher ahead of time printed 100 copies of the paper-based version and has handed them out to all the students and said, oh, sorry, miss, I forgot to bring my mobile phone today. So with Smart Classrooms, there's a lot of flexibility on how you can present your lesson. It's no longer just stand in front of the classroom and present a video with 5 questions, okay? Or a video that stops, pops out a question, the kid goes, okay, I just heard the answer, I'm going to select B, slide in, and then they forget about it because the video then keeps playing. If you wanted to do the stop and answer questions, you can do that through multiple slides. And again, if you get us out on site, we can show you how to do that. But your teachers also have that flexibility to take their lessons to the next level and engage with their students on the devices that they're already using for their leisure. If you're a school that doesn't allow the students to view information on their mobile phones, that's not an issue either. We can deliver onto any BYOD device, school-issued device, or as you've seen, it can be printed out onto a paper that they can answer with a pen. So that is today's session, all about engaging your students with questions and answers. If you've got any questions, we're going to be sitting here with the team answering your questions through the chat panel. If you want us to come out on site and do some training with your staff specifically on Smart Classrooms, jump onto the mailbox, submit a request, and we will organise that for you. It's all part of your subscription. We want you to be getting the best return on your investment with your subscription with us. So all you need to do is ask, and we're going to be out on site. We're also going to be doing a lot of activities over the next term 3 and term 4. So make sure that you are monitoring the events page on functionalsolutions.com.au. If you're on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, because all those professional development events that we will be running across Australia, including rural areas, are going to be listed on the Facebook channel as well. And the interim training events, like the one that you're joining today, is going to be published through the YouTube Live platform. We also have a lot of our technicians that are uploading content almost daily to help you out with some of those questions that you get asked all the time about your library or about the TV for Education subscription. So to make sure that you are receiving notifications when we're posting that, make sure you subscribe to the Functional Solutions International YouTube channel and you hit that bell. When you hit that bell, you'll receive notifications straight away that we have published something, and you'll be able to go in and have a look, or an event like today has gone live and you can jump in and interact with us. So I hope that has opened up your understanding of the Smart Classrooms platform a little bit more. My name is Quentin, and we can't wait to see you in next week's YouTube Live event. Have a great afternoon, guys. See you later.